I stood in my parents' living room with my phone in hand, the job offer email still glowing on the screen. Senior Corporate Counsel at TechVance Solutions in San Diego. $215,000 base salary. Plus equity. Relocation package. My own team. Everything I'd worked toward for 7 years. I got the job, I announced, my voice cutting through the noise. The one in San Diego. I'm moving in 3 weeks. My mother was arranging flowers in a vase. Peonies. Expensive ones from the fancy florist downtown. She didn't look up. That's nice, dear. These are for your brother's engagement party this weekend. Don't they look gorgeous? I'm moving to California, I repeated, louder this time. Across the country. My father glanced up from his iPad, where he was scrolling through venue options for my brother Tyler's engagement party. California? That's far. Tyler, did you see this venue? It has a waterfront view. Tyler was sprawled on the couch, his fiancée Brittany tucked under his arm, both of them looking at wedding Pinterest boards on her phone. He grunted without looking up. Looks good, Dad. I stood there, holding my phone like a shield, waiting for someone to ask a question. Any question. When do you leave? What will you do there? Are you excited? Scared? Do you need help moving? Nothing. The engagement party is at the country club, Mom continued, adjusting the peonies with laser focus. Brittany's parents are paying for everything. 200 guests. Can you imagine? Tyler, you're so lucky to be marrying into such a generous family. Mom, I tried one more time. I'm moving to San Diego. For a really important job. She finally looked at me, her expression mildly annoyed. Yes, I heard you the first time, Alexis. You don't need to keep repeating yourself. It's actually a bit attention-seeking. Attention-seeking. For announcing that I was leaving the state. Will you help me pack? I asked, already knowing the answer. Sweetie, we're completely swamped with the engagement party. Mom's tone suggested I was being unreasonable. Can't you hire movers? You have that lawyer salary now. That lawyer salary. As if the $92,000 I'd been making at my current firm was extravagant wealth, rather than the result of 6 years of 16-hour days and a mountain of student debt. What about after the party? I pressed. I leave in 3 weeks. We're going to Napa right after, Brittany chimed in, not looking up from her phone. Wedding planning trip. Tyler's parents are treating us. A whole week at a resort. Of course they were. I looked at my father, who had moved on to comparing catering menus. Dad. What's that? Never mind. I walked out of their house, got in my car, and sat in the driveway for 15 minutes before I could bring myself to drive away. The memory that surfaced was old but sharp, like a knife I'd never successfully dulled. The high school auditorium was packed for the National Merit Scholarship ceremony. I'd scored in the top 1% nationally on the SAT. A full-ride scholarship to any state school, $2,500 a year, recognition at a ceremony where the mayor would be speaking. Mom and Dad had promised to come. Promised. I stood backstage in my best dress, thrifted but clean and pressed, scanning the audience for their faces. The ceremony started. My name was called. I walked across the stage, shook the mayor's hand, accepted my certificate. The audience clapped. Generic, polite applause. I found my parents' seats. Empty. After the ceremony, I'd called Mom's cell. She'd answered on the 4th ring, distracted. Oh honey, I'm so sorry. Tyler's basketball game ran late, and then we took the team out for pizza. How did it go? I won, I'd said flatly. Full scholarship. That's wonderful. We're so proud. Tyler's team won too. He scored the winning basket. It was incredible. Tyler had been 13, playing middle school basketball. I'd earned a scholarship worth $10,000. His winning basket mattered more. I'd learned something that day. In my family's hierarchy, I would always be the opening act, never the main event. Back in the present, I sat in my car outside my parents' house and opened my email. The TechVance offer was still there, still real. San Diego. New life. 3,000 miles between me and this. I forwarded the email to myself with a note. Proof this happened. Proof they didn't care. I'd need it later, when I started doubting my own memories. 3 weeks later, I moved to San Diego. Alone. I'd hired movers, packed everything myself, drove my Toyota across the country with only my law school friend Sarah for company. She'd taken a week off work just to help me. My parents didn't call to say goodbye. Tyler's engagement party had been absolutely magical, according to Mom's Facebook album. 200 guests, waterfront views, a jazz band, custom cocktails named after the couple. The photos showed my parents beaming, dancing, toasting their perfect son and his perfect fiancée. I wasn't in a single photo. Because I hadn't been invited. It's just for immediate family and the wedding party, Mom had explained when I'd asked. You understand. I was immediate family. But apparently, that wasn't immediate enough. 3 years later, I stood on my rooftop deck watching the sunset paint San Diego skyline in shades of orange and pink. The city stretched out before me, glittering and alive, and I felt something I'd never felt in my parents' house. Home. The condo was mine. All 1,650 square feet of it. Purchased 14 months ago for $925,000. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, and this rooftop deck that had sold me on the property the moment I'd seen it. The mortgage was steep, but my salary had climbed to $245,000, and I could afford it comfortably. You're doing that thing again, Marcus said, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. That contemplative sunset stare. Very philosophical. I leaned back into him, smiling. Just thinking about how far I've come. From the woman who showed up to San Diego with everything she owned in a Toyota? Yeah, I'd say pretty far. Marcus Chen. Investment banker, infuriatingly handsome, and the first person in my adult life who had made me feel seen. We'd met 2 years ago at a TechVance networking event. He'd been there representing his firm, I'd been there representing mine. We'd ended up in a corner debating corporate law for 2 hours while everyone else networked around us. He'd asked me to dinner. Then breakfast. Then just kept asking. Your brother's wedding is this weekend, right? Marcus asked carefully. He knew enough of my family history to tread lightly. Yep. In Connecticut. I'm not going. They invited you? They sent a save the date 2 years ago. Never followed up with an actual invitation. Mom texted last month asking if I was planning to make an appearance. Not, we'd love to have you there. Not, we miss you. Just asking if I was planning to appear, like I was optional decoration. Marcus turned me around to face him. And you said? I said I had a work commitment. Which is true. I'm deposing witnesses Monday morning. But honestly, even if I didn't, I wouldn't go. I'm done performing for an audience that doesn't see me. The truth was more complicated and more simple. I'd stopped trying. Stopped calling. Stopped sending birthday cards that went unacknowledged. Stopped flying home for holidays where I sat at the table like a ghost. 3 years in San Diego, and I'd built a life that was measurably, quantifiably better than anything I'd had before. My career had exploded. I'd made senior counsel, then promoted again to vice president of legal affairs. I managed a team of 8 lawyers. I'd negotiated 3 major acquisitions that had made the tech news. My boss, Catherine Wu, had become a mentor and friend, the first woman in authority who had actually invested in my growth. Alexis, you're brilliant, Catherine had told me 6 months ago over lunch. Stop underselling yourself. You're one of the best lawyers I've ever worked with, and I've been doing this for 25 years. I'd nearly cried. Not from the compliment itself, but from the novelty of someone seeing my work and naming it valuable. My social life had transformed too. Sarah had moved to LA and visited monthly. I'd made friends through work, through Marcus, through a book club I'd joined on a whim. Real friends who showed up. Who texted asking how my day went. Who remembered my birthday without Facebook reminding them. How's the trial prep going? Marcus asked, leading me back inside the condo. Brutal but good. We're going to win. The other side's case is falling apart. Our condo, because it had become our 6 months ago when Marcus had officially moved in, was decorated with things we'd chosen together. Modern furniture from West Elm, art from local San Diego galleries, books that reflected both our tastes. It looked like adults lived here. Adults who had their lives together. So different from my childhood home, where everything had been chosen to impress visitors and showcase Tyler's achievements. Where my presence had always felt temporary, like I was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. I invited some people over for dinner Saturday, Marcus said, pulling ingredients from the fridge. He'd become an excellent cook, something that delighted him and shocked his traditional Chinese parents. Sarah's driving down. James and his wife, Catherine if she's free, thought we could christen the new deck furniture properly. The new deck furniture. We'd spent $4,800 on a custom outdoor dining set last month. The kind of purchase that felt absurd and perfect at the same time. Sounds perfect, I said. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler's fiancée Brittany. Can't wait for the wedding. It's going to be perfect. Wish you could make it crying face. The emoji felt like an insult. Performative sadness. I didn't respond. You know what's weird? I said to Marcus. They have no idea about any of this. The condo, the promotion, this life. They think I'm still some junior lawyer struggling in a studio apartment. Have you told them? Why would I? They never ask. Mom calls maybe 3 times a year, always needing something. Advice on Tyler's legal issues, help understanding a contract, free consultation on something Dad's business is dealing with. Never how are you? Never what's new. Just, can you help with this legal thing? Marcus started chopping vegetables for stir-fry, his movements precise. You're allowed to let them think whatever they want. Your life isn't their business anymore. My therapist. Yes, I had one of those now, Dr. Rachel Kim, who I'd been seeing for 18 months, had said something similar. You've spent your whole life trying to earn their attention. What if you just stopped? What if you built a life so full and rich that their approval became irrelevant? I was trying. And mostly succeeding. The financial transformation alone was staggering. 3 years ago, I'd arrived in San Diego with $87,000 in student loans, $3,200 in my checking account, and a used car. Now, student loans paid off completely. $180,000 in investments and retirement accounts. The condo with $125,000 in equity already. An emergency fund that could cover 8 months of expenses. I'd done this. Without family money. Without help. Without their interest or involvement. Dinner's almost ready, Marcus said. Want to eat on the deck? We carried our plates upstairs to the rooftop deck, where string lights twinkled and the city hummed below us. This was my life now. A life I'd built from scratch, from nothing, from the scraps of attention my family had never bothered to give me. I love you, Marcus said suddenly, raising his wine glass. And I'm proud of you. Not just for this, he gestured at the condo, the view, but for choosing yourself. That takes guts. I clinked my glass against his, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely, wholly at peace with my choices. My family didn't know where I lived. Didn't know what I earned. Didn't know Marcus existed. Didn't know I'd become someone who mattered, who contributed, who had built something real. And I was fine with that. Better than fine. Saturday evening, our rooftop deck was alive with conversation and laughter. Sarah had driven up from LA with her new girlfriend Emma. James and his wife Keiko had brought their baby daughter, who Marcus was currently entertaining with silly faces. Catherine had shown up with expensive wine and stories about her latest courtroom victory. This was family. Not by blood but by choice. This view is insane, Sarah said, leaning against the railing. Alexis, you really made it. I'm so proud of you. Marcus was taking photos. He'd recently gotten into photography and was documenting everything. Everyone squeeze in, he called. I want one with the sunset. We all gathered at the railing, the San Diego skyline glowing behind us, string lights twinkling overhead. Marcus set the timer and ran to join us, wrapping his arm around my waist as the camera clicked. Perfect, he said, reviewing the shot. This is going on Instagram for sure. I didn't think anything of it. My Instagram was private, my family didn't follow me, and I'd carefully curated my social media to exclude anyone from my old life 3 years ago. What I didn't account for was Tyler's fiancée Brittany, who followed Marcus because they'd somehow connected on social media during one of her deep dive stalking sessions. Marcus's Instagram was public, for his photography work, and he posted the photo with the caption, "Perfect evening with perfect people. Grateful for this view and this life with at Alexis Jen." The photo was beautiful. The six of us laughing, the sunset, the expensive deck furniture, the floor-to-ceiling windows of my condo visible in the background, and most damningly, the San Diego skyline identifying exactly where and how well I was living. I went to bed that night happy, full of good food and wine, surrounded by people who loved me. The first text came at 9:23 a.m. Sunday morning. Mom. Alexis? Is this your condo? I was making coffee, still in my pajamas, Marcus still asleep in our bedroom. I stared at my phone, my stomach dropping. Before I could process how to respond, my phone exploded. 9:26 a.m., Dad. You bought a place in San Diego? When? How much did that cost? 9:29 a.m., Tyler. Dude, that's a sick condo. That's gotta be worth like $1 million in that area. 9:31 a.m., Mom. You have a boyfriend? Since when? Why didn't you tell us? 9:34 a.m., Brittany. OMG, your rooftop deck is gorgeous. Is that downtown SD? Those condos are so expensive. 9:38 a.m., Dad. We need to talk. Call me immediately. 9:41 a.m. Mom. Your father and I are very hurt that you kept this from us. We're your parents. 9:45 a.m. Tyler. Mom's freaking out. Call her. I sat on my couch, coffee forgotten, watching the messages pile up like a car crash in slow motion. 3 years of silence. 3 years of them not asking about my life, not visiting, not caring where I lived or how I was doing. And now, within 2 hours of discovering I had money, I was suddenly worth their attention. Marcus emerged from the bedroom, took one look at my face, and sat beside me. What happened? I handed him my phone. He scrolled through the messages, his jaw tightening with each one. Not one of these says congratulations. Not one says they're happy for you. He was right. Every message was either an interrogation or an accusation. Not, I'm so proud you bought a home. Not, your place looks beautiful. Not, I'd love to hear about your boyfriend. Just, how much did it cost? Why didn't you tell us? We're hurt. Call us. They're going to ask for money, I said quietly. You know that, right? Marcus pulled me close. Probably. Are you okay? I don't know yet. The messages continued throughout the day. My phone buzzed so constantly that I finally turned it on silent and left it face down on the counter. By Monday morning, there were 63 unread messages from various family members. Mom, Dad, Tyler, Brittany, my Aunt Linda, my Uncle Joe, even my grandmother. People who hadn't contacted me in years suddenly had urgent messages about my secret life. I drove to work, sat in my office, and stared at my phone for 20 minutes before finally reading through them. The pattern was obvious. From Mom, we've always supported you, and this is how you repay us? By hiding your success? By keeping us in the dark. From Dad, very disappointed in you, Alexis. Family shouldn't have secrets. Call me today. From Tyler, look, I don't want to make this awkward, but we could really use some help. Wedding costs are insane. Since you're doing so well. There it was. From Brittany. Hi Alexis. Hope you're having a great day. Just wanted to chat about the wedding. Some unexpected costs came up and we're a bit short. Would love to talk. 2 hearts. I recognized this pattern. I'd lived it my entire childhood. The moment I had something they wanted, good grades they could brag about, legal knowledge they could exploit, money they could access, suddenly I mattered. You okay? Catherine asked, appearing in my office doorway. You look like you've seen a ghost. My family discovered I'm not poor, I said flatly. Catherine, who knew enough of my background to fill in the blanks, closed my office door and sat down. How long until they ask for money? Tyler and Brittany asked this morning. Parents are still in the guilt phase. I give them another 24 hours before they pivot to specific dollar amounts. And what are you going to do? I looked at my mentor, this woman who had invested in me, believed in me, and never once demanded I make myself smaller so she could feel bigger. I'm going to say no. Catherine smiled. Good. You don't owe them anything. Tuesday evening, I came home from work to find my parents' car parked outside my building. They'd flown to San Diego. Unannounced. Marcus was already home. His office let him work remotely most days. and he met me in the lobby with a warning look. Your parents are upstairs. They somehow convinced the building manager to let them up. They've been waiting on our floor for 40 minutes. Jesus Christ. I can ask them to leave, Marcus offered. No. I need to handle this. We rode the elevator up in silence. When the doors opened, my parents were sitting on the bench outside my door, looking tired and dramatically aggrieved. Finally, Mom said, standing up. We've been waiting for hours. I was at work, I said evenly. You know, the job you never asked about. Dad stood too, his expression stern. We need to talk. Inside. Now. I wanted to refuse. Wanted to tell them to leave. But part of me, the small, hopeful part I'd never successfully killed, wondered if maybe this could be different. If maybe they'd flown across the country to apologize, to rebuild, to actually see me. I unlocked the door. They walked into my condo like inspectors, taking in every detail with visible calculation. This is very nice, Mom said, her tone suggesting the opposite. Very spacious. For 2 people. You must be Marcus, Dad said, extending his hand with forced politeness. We've heard nothing about you. Marcus shook his hand firmly. Alexis has mentioned you. We sat in my living room, the room I'd decorated carefully, with furniture I'd saved for and art I'd chosen myself. My parents perched on my couch like auditors preparing to deliver bad news. So, Dad began. Let's talk about why you've been hiding all this from us. I haven't been hiding anything, I said calmly. You never asked. We call you, Mom protested. 3 times a year. Always because you need free legal advice. You've never once asked about my life. That's not fair, Dad said. We've been busy. With Tyler's wedding. Yes, I know. The wedding I wasn't properly invited to. Mom's face flushed. We sent you a save the date. 2 years ago. You never followed up with an actual invitation. Brittany texted last month asking if I was planning to make an appearance. That's not an invitation. That's a suggestion that I'm optional. You're being dramatic. Tyler's voice came from the hallway. I turned to see him walking through my front door. Apparently my parents had given him my address. Did you just walk into my home uninvited? I asked. The door was unlocked, Tyler said, which was a lie. Marcus had locked it behind us. Tyler picked the lock, Dad said, as if this was normal and acceptable. We're family. We shouldn't need permission. Marcus stood up, his voice sharp. Actually, that's called breaking and entering. Leave. Now. This is a family conversation, Mom snapped. This is my home, I said, standing too. And I'm asking you to leave. Not until you explain yourself, Dad demanded. You've been living this secret life, making serious money, bought $1 million condo. $925,000, I corrected automatically. And you didn't think to tell your family? To help your family. There it was. The real reason they'd come. Tyler's wedding is costing more than expected, Mom said, her voice shifting to pleading. The venue raised their prices, and Brittany's dress alterations were $3,000 more than quoted, and the catering. We need $39,000, Dad interrupted. By the end of the month. Or we'll have to cancel. $39,000. By the end of the month. 2 weeks away. You have this condo, Tyler added. You could take out a home equity loan. Or liquidate some investments. You're clearly loaded. I looked at these people. My parents, my brother, and saw them clearly for the first time. Not as family who loved me. But as people who saw me as a resource to be extracted. An ATM with feelings they didn't have to consider. No, I said simply. No. Mom's voice rose. Alexis, this is your brother's wedding. The brother who didn't invite me. To the wedding you're asking me to fund. No. We invited you, Tyler protested weakly. You sent a save the date. That's not the same thing. When's the last time any of you asked about my life? My job? My relationship? Anything? Silence. You can't even answer, I continued, my voice getting clinical. My lawyer voice. Because you don't know. You don't know when I got promoted. You don't know when I bought this place. You don't know when I met Marcus. You don't know anything about me because you've never bothered to ask. You never told us, Mom countered. I tried. 3 years ago. Remember? When I stood in your living room and told you I was moving to San Diego. You told me I was being attention-seeking. You were too busy planning Tyler's engagement party to help me pack. You didn't even say goodbye. That's not how I remember it, Dad said. Of course it's not. Because I'm invisible to you unless I'm useful. We raised you, Mom said, playing her trump card. We sacrificed. You did the legal minimum required of parents, I interrupted. And I was a scholarship kid. I paid for college myself. Law school myself. This condo myself. What exactly did you sacrifice? Your attitude, Dad said coldly. Success has made you cold. No. Boundaries have made me healthy. I walked to the door and opened it. I need you all to leave now. We flew across the country, Mom said, her voice shaking with anger. And you're just going to throw us out? You flew across the country to ask for money. Not to see me. Not to apologize for 3 years of silence. To ask for $39,000. Yes, I'm throwing you out. You'll regret this, Tyler said, his voice hard. When we're gone and you've got no family. I have family, I said, looking at Marcus. Just not you. They left. But not quietly. In the hallway, Mom's voice echoed. This is what happens when you spoil children. They become selfish. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there shaking. Marcus pulled me into his arms. You okay? I will be. That night they made their first mistake. My mother posted on Facebook. A long, detailed post about her ungrateful daughter, who had forgotten where she came from, and was too selfish to help family in their time of need, despite living in a $925,000 condo and making corporate lawyer money. The post was public. She tagged me. She tagged Tyler and Brittany. She made it a referendum on my character. But Mom had forgotten something crucial. I had friends now. Real friends. Who knew my story? The comments on Mom's Facebook post started rolling in within minutes. Sarah was first. I helped Alexis move to San Diego 3 years ago when her own family couldn't be bothered. She drove across the country alone because you were too busy with Tyler's engagement party. Don't talk about being forgotten. Catherine commented next. I've worked with Alexis for 3 years. She's brilliant, generous, and one of the hardest workers I've ever met. Maybe if you'd paid attention to her achievements instead of ignoring them, you'd know that. Marcus's comment was surgical. Alexis tried to tell you about her job 3 years ago. You called her attention-seeking and didn't help her move. You didn't visit once. No calls unless you needed free legal advice. You didn't even invite her to Tyler's wedding properly. And now you're surprised she doesn't want to fund it. Then my extended family started chiming in. Aunt Linda. Wait, Alexis is a corporate lawyer? In San Diego? I thought she was still in school? Why didn't anyone tell us about her career? My cousin Rachel. I saw Alexis at Grandma's funeral 2 years ago. She tried to talk about her job and Tyler literally interrupted her to talk about his promotion. I remember because it was so rude. Even people from my high school started commenting. People who remembered how I'd been treated. My debate team coach. Alexis was one of the most talented students I ever taught. She earned every scholarship she got. This post is shameful. The tide turned fast. What Mom intended as a call-out became evidence. Evidence that I'd been telling the truth about how they treated me. By morning, Mom had deleted the post. But screenshots lived forever. People had shared it, commented on it, dissected it. My phone started buzzing with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Alexis, I had no idea you were doing so well. Congratulations. Your mother never mentioned your success. I'm sorry we weren't told. I can't believe they asked you for $39,000 for a wedding you weren't even invited to. The truth was spreading, and I hadn't had to say a word. Wednesday morning, I received an email from a law firm in Connecticut. My parents' lawyer. They were threatening legal action for defamation, based on the Facebook comments from my friends, claiming I had orchestrated a campaign to destroy their reputation, and demanding I issue a public apology and pay $39,000 in damages. I forwarded it to Catherine, who read it in my office with increasing amusement. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, she said. They have no case. Your friends told the truth, and truth is an absolute defense to defamation. Plus, they can't demand money in a defamation claim and call it damages, when it's clearly just the wedding cost they wanted you to pay anyway. Should I respond? I'll respond. Professionally. Devastatingly. Catherine smiled. This is what I do for fun. Her response letter was a masterpiece. 3 pages of legal precision that essentially said, your clients have no case. The comments were true statements of fact. Demanding the exact amount they previously requested proves this is about money, not reputation, and if they proceed with this frivolous lawsuit, we'll countersue for harassment and abuse of process. The legal threat evaporated within 48 hours. But they weren't done. Thursday, Tyler called my office directly, bypassing my cell phone which I'd blocked. Alexis Chen's office. My assistant Derek answered. I need to speak to Alexis. It's her brother. Family emergency. Derek transferred the call. I almost didn't pick up. There's no emergency, I said when I answered. What do you want? Look, this got out of hand, Tyler said, his voice attempting conciliation. Mom shouldn't have posted that stuff. We're sorry. Are you? Or are you sorry you got called out? Can we just talk? Like adults? I'm flying to San Diego tomorrow. Let me take you to dinner. Just the 2 of us. I should have said no. Should have hung up. But that small, stupid, hopeful part of me wondered if maybe he actually wanted to repair things. Fine. Dinner. Public place. No parents. We met Friday evening at a restaurant in the Gaslamp Quarter. Tyler showed up in an expensive suit, looking successful and tired. Nice place, he said, sitting down. You picked well. I live here. I know the good spots. We ordered drinks. Made awkward small talk about the weather, about San Diego, about nothing important. Then Tyler got to the point. I get it, he said. You're mad. You have a right to be. Mom and Dad. They focus on me a lot. I know that. But they do love you. Do they? Or do they love what I can provide when it's convenient? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. They're not perfect. But they're family. And this wedding. Alexis, we're drowning. The venue costs doubled. Brittany's dress alterations were insane. Her parents pulled out of paying for half because her dad's business is struggling. If we don't come up with $39,000 by the 30th, we lose all our deposits. We'll have nothing. That sounds really hard, I said carefully. So you'll help? No. Tyler's face hardened. You're really going to let my wedding get cancelled because you're petty? I'm not canceling your wedding. Your poor planning is canceling your wedding. And the fact that I wasn't actually invited. We invited you. You sent a save the date 2 years ago. That's not an invitation. When was my +1 due? What was the dress code? What time is the ceremony? You can't answer because you never actually invited me. You're splitting hairs. No, I'm setting boundaries. You want $39,000 from someone you couldn't be bothered to send an invitation to. That's not splitting hairs. That's recognizing I'm not your bank. Tyler leaned back, his expression calculating. You know, people are going to think you're horrible. When they find out you could have saved your brother's wedding and chose not to. Let them think what they want. The people who matter know the truth. Mom's devastated, Tyler tried. Dad's blood pressure is through the roof. They can't sleep. Is this what you want? To hurt them. They've hurt me my entire life. They just didn't care enough to notice. Tyler stood up, throwing his napkin on the table. You've changed. Money changed you. No. Boundaries changed me. Money just made you all finally notice I exist. He left. I paid for both our drinks and went home to Marcus, who had made dinner and was waiting with a glass of wine. How'd it go? He asked. Exactly as expected. He asked for money, I said no, he called me selfish and left. I'm proud of you, Marcus said, pulling me close. Those words, from someone who actually knew me, mattered more than anything my family could say. Saturday the wedding happened. I know because Brittany posted about it constantly on social media. Apparently, they'd found the money somewhere. Probably borrowed from Tyler's friends or Brittany's relatives or gone into debt. The photos showed a beautiful ceremony. 200 guests. My parents smiling. Tyler and Brittany glowing. I wasn't in a single photo. Because I hadn't been there. And for the first time in my life, that didn't hurt. Sunday morning, I received a final message from my father. You've made your choice. Don't expect to hear from us again. You're dead to us. I stared at the text for a long time, waiting to feel something. Grief, regret, loss. Instead, I felt relief. I showed Marcus. Is it wrong that I'm not sad? No. You've been grieving this relationship for years. This is just the official ending. I blocked their numbers. All of them. Mom, Dad, Tyler, Brittany. I blocked them on social media. I changed my number and only gave the new one to people who had actually shown up for me. And then I went on with my life. 11 months later, I stood on my rooftop deck watching another San Diego sunset. But this time the view was different. Marcus was beside me, and on my left hand was an engagement ring. Simple, elegant, chosen together because that's how we did everything. You're doing that contemplative thing again, Marcus teased. Just thinking about how much has changed. The past 11 months had been transformative. Catherine had promoted me to general counsel, the top legal position at TechVance. My salary had jumped to $320,000. I'd been featured in a San Diego Business Journal article about young general counsels. I'd spoken at a legal conference in New York. My life had flourished without my family's involvement. Not despite their absence, but because of it. Your Aunt Linda's coming to the engagement party, right? Marcus asked. Yeah. And my cousin Rachel. And Aunt Linda's kids. I smiled. The family members who actually reached out after everything exploded. Who apologized for not paying attention. Who asked if we could rebuild. Not everyone from my family had been terrible. Some, mostly the extended relatives who hadn't realized how I'd been treated, had reached out with genuine apologies and genuine interest. I'd been cautiously rebuilding relationships with the ones who showed consistent effort. But my parents? Tyler? Brittany? Radio silence. Which was exactly what I wanted. The caterer confirmed for tomorrow, Marcus said. 50 people. Sarah's driving up tonight. Catherine's bringing her husband. Your whole team is coming. Our engagement party. Not a massive, expensive affair designed to impress people. Just 50 people we actually cared about, who actually cared about us, gathering on our rooftop deck to celebrate. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Alexis, this is your mother. I'm texting from a new phone. Tyler and Brittany are getting divorced. He lost his job. They're moving back in with us. We can't afford to support them. I know we had our differences, but family is family. We need help. $52,000 to cover Tyler's legal fees and their moving costs. You have the resources now. Please. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling nothing except a distant, clinical interest. I showed Marcus. What are you going to do? He asked. Nothing. I blocked the number and deleted the message. I'm proud of you, Marcus said, kissing my forehead. The engagement party the next day was perfect. Our rooftop deck filled with people who mattered. Sarah gave a toast about how far I'd come. Catherine talked about watching me grow into a powerhouse lawyer. Marcus's parents, warm, kind, genuinely interested in me, welcomed me into their family with a Chinese tea ceremony that made me cry. This was family. Not by blood but by choice. By showing up. By seeing each other. Speech. Someone called out. I stood, looking at these 50 people who had celebrated my victories and supported my struggles, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you all for being here, I said. Some of you have known me for years. Some of you I've met more recently. But all of you have something in common. You saw me. You asked about my life. You showed up. And that matters more than you know. For a long time, I thought family was something you were born into. Something you had to earn your way into through perfect behavior and endless sacrifice. I thought if I just worked hard enough, achieved enough, became successful enough, I'd finally matter to the people whose approval I'd been chasing my whole life. But I've learned something important. You can't earn love from people who don't have it to give. And you don't need to. Because real family, the kind that matters, is the people who choose you. Who show up for you. Who celebrate with you not because of what you can give them, but because of who you are. So thank you. For being my real family. For seeing me. For being here. There wasn't a dry eye on the deck. Later that night, after everyone had left and Marcus and I were cleaning up, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This is Dad. Your mother told me you ignored her. Your brother is suffering. He's your flesh and blood. How can you be so cold? We raised you better than this. This isn't who we taught you to be. I read it aloud to Marcus. You want me to block this number too? He asked. No. I want to respond. Just once. Then I'm done. I typed carefully. You taught me exactly what you intended to teach me. That I only matter when I'm useful. That my achievements don't count unless they benefit you. That my presence is optional but my resources are required. I learned those lessons well. But I also learned something you didn't teach me. I deserve better. I found people who see me, who value me, who show up for me without expecting anything in return. That's family. You're not. Please don't contact me again. I hit send. Then blocked the number. How do you feel? Marcus asked. Free. And I was. 6 months later, Marcus and I got married. Small ceremony, 40 guests, on a beach in San Diego at sunset. Sarah was my maid of honor. Catherine officiated. Marcus's parents welcomed me with love and warmth I'd never known from my own. My parents weren't there. Tyler wasn't there. None of them were. And I didn't miss them. The photos from that day show me laughing, genuinely happy, surrounded by people who loved me. Not because I was successful or useful or could give them something. Just because I was me. That night, alone with Marcus in our honeymoon suite, I looked at my wedding ring and thought about the journey. From invisible daughter to successful lawyer. From desperate for approval to content with myself. From empty family dinners to chosen family celebrations. Any regrets? Marcus asked the same question he always asked. I regret that they couldn't love me, I said honestly. But I don't regret choosing myself. Not for a second. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. He pulled me close. And my family. Who, fair warning, are already planning to spoil our future children. Future children. The thought made me smile. Children I would see, would celebrate, would show up for. Children who would never wonder if they mattered. My phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it, but something made me look. Aunt Linda, I saw your wedding photos on Facebook. You look so happy. I'm sorry we weren't there to celebrate with you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Proud of you, kiddo. Not my parents. Not Tyler. But an aunt who had reached out consistently, who had apologized genuinely, who had shown up in small ways over the past year. I typed back. Thank you. That means a lot. Let's have lunch next time you're in California. Some family was worth keeping. Some wasn't. I'd finally learned to tell the difference. I put my phone away and focused on my husband, on our future, on the life I'd built from nothing. The life they'd never bothered to see until it became valuable to them. The $925,000 condo was ours. The career was mine. The love was real. The family was chosen. And I was finally enough. Not because they saw my worth. But because I did.